Okay, so we're recording. So this is an overview, just a direct translation pretty much, of the Teichen of the Maamer. That is, so the Kavon of Yosef the sent to Mitzrayim was the Pnimius, in order to gather the sparks and to make the Golos easier. As he told the brothers, and that's why he told them not to be sad and not to be angry, because all chatoim are really, all chatoim on the one hand obviously contrary to the Ratzon Evlin, but there is the Kavona, which is the Tshuva, which comes afterwards. But in this case, he's telling his brothers, here the selling itself was the Pia Kavona. As we just said, elevating the sparks, lighting the golos, and even he himself became a leader in Mitzrayim, etc. Even for Yosef himself, he didn't harbor any resentment. So this is what we're asking according to the Medrash. The Eivishter should be to us like a brother, like Yosef to the brothers, even though we, unlike even like the brothers, because even though that we, through our not good acts, because the golos to the tzad and to the neshama, to the shechina, explains in the mind, but that's the ikar affront. It's not the chet, but ignoring the plea. And when we do so therefore the tzad is for nothing. Like the brother selling Yosef as an eved. Nonetheless, we ask the Eibush to be like, give us all that is good, forgive our aveinos, help us to tshuva, reveal to us the kavanah pnimius. It's all because of the mind of tshuva. As all of this is played out in Anhag of Yosef. Missing a lot of nuance here. Obviously, just getting an overview. Now, the h'tshech of Einitzam Shemalim Yistal Shalom Stake is through Balida by the Bali Tshuva, Iskafia, which is fleeing from Ra. Like it's yes Mitzrayim, Chedesh Nisan, fleeing from Mitzrayim. However, the fulfillment, the realization of the Kavon of Dirib Tachtoinim is dafka to the Avedis Tzadikim, is h'tshech. That's for Zoimer, Chedesh Ir, Chedesh Aziv, as explained in the Maamer. So just like the empowerment that brings to the Avodah, so the Gilui that brings to Iskafi is higher than the Gilui that brings to Isachra, which is drawn in the Pnimius, as an empowerment for Avodah, seems true the consequence. The Gilui of Alikus, it's Nimshach through Avodah. So the Gilui through Tshuva Iskafi is higher. But the Amshach al-Mata B'Pnimius is Dafke Avedis Tzadikim is hafcha. That's why the Medrash brings that Eibush says Gdulasi b'Marli b'Gdulascha. This is referring to the two levels of Avodah within Avodah Tzadikim. The Gdulasi one is the Avodah of Bittul and Anova, which is not to negate the Metzias. As the Pasuk says, that the humble ones will add in Havaya Simcha. That's the mile of what? Of B'dulasi. The mile of Kedushasi is Amshachat through Tshuva, which is not engaging the Metzia, it's not negating it. Bittul of the Evyer, he has no mile at all. And so if you're in the Odom, the Kadosh Yisrael, you're given. So what are we asking? We're asking, Tzemach Tzedek says, the Medrash says, like Yosef and Binyamin, because what is asked is the fusion of the two, the mile of both. But also the Avodah of Tshuva, which is Haydin Ishtal Shalus, and it's Iskafia, should have the mile of Hisyashivos, the fusion of both of them, Tzadikim and Bali Tshuva, as we explained yesterday at the end of the shiur. Okay, so that's just an overview, which doesn't tell us a whole lot. So let's go through the Maamer now in a brief outline or an outline of each ois. You can follow me as I do it. So the Maamer began as follows. The Pasuk says, so the Medrash is a very strange thing. The Medrash says that you might think that your Kedusha is like mine. No, Kodesh only, I am holy. My Kedusha is higher than your Kedusha. So first the Maimon says, how can there be such a Kasok Daita? And then immediately answers, absolutely. First of all, the Pasuk itself says that you are Kodesh because I'm Kodesh. So there's an equivalence right there in the Pasuk. So the Kasok Daita, that forethought, is justified by the Pasuk itself. Moreover, the Pnimius, Yidden, Yisol Kuchiblicha Kolachad, so Take, whatever all the inyanim that exist in the Maila, Shaykh by a Yid. So there is the inyan of Kamoini, and the Pasuk says so. So now the question is the opposite. So why is the Maskon of the Medrash not the Pasuk? Maskon of the Medrash, no. The Kedushos, the Maimon Kedushos. It doesn't even fit with the Pasuk. The Pasuk makes an equivalence. You be Kodesh because I'm Kodesh. So the Alter Rebbe answers that what is this Kedushas? That is Kedusha. Kedushas Stam is Kedusha to the Mishatus Erusa Maisa Mitzvahs. But what's Kedushas, which is hiding Kedushas Chem? So this is an Aveda Kedusha where Erusa Delatata does not reach. And he concludes with the strange words, and it's drawn down through Tshuva, which immediately arouses the question, but that is Aveda. So now with the benefit of hindsight, having learned the end of the Maimon and the answer to this question. Anybody wants to say what the answer is? It's the last place, Namash should be quick and limited in a few words. After the whole beat of the Maimon. Okay, so, anybody wants to say?
The Tibuch between the two avodas.
Yeah, but how does that answer these words? Alter Rebbe says, "She'ein yisarusa delatata magasha." It is tshuva, it's tremendous arusa delatata. The Tibuch helps us that even though we are like Yosef and the brothers were asking like Binyamin, you want both milas. But how does it fit here, Pashit, the words of the Alter Rebbe? The Alter Rebbe seems to be completely contradicting himself in a few words. He says Kedushasi is what is a Kedusha which is higher than Sarusa de Latat, and it's drawn down to Tshuva. The answer at the end of the Maimon is Sarusa de Latat. Just gonna unmute yourself to speak. The answer is, Isarusa de Latata, the end of the Maimon, means that the Sata, the lower, that's us, is in a state of arousal, of Avodah. So that implies engagement. Isarusa de Latata implies engagement. But Avodah Satshuva is transcendent. It's not the Sata, the Yid down here, in a way of his otherness. It's negation of self, it's transcendence of self. That was the whole beat at the end of the Maimon. That Dirib Tachtonim is dafka to David Tzadikim, because Dirib Tachtonim is not negating the world but suffusing it. Again, the home is not a place where you surrender. Home is a place where you express yourself. But you express yourself in absolute oneness with your soulmate and your family. It isn't a selfish place, God forbid. It's a place of unity and oneness in the deepest way. But the oneness is not by bittul. Humility, yes, but not self-transcendent. Yeah. So that's the pshat here, the end of the Maimon. That Avodas HaTshuva is not the classic Isarusa de Latata. Isarusa de Latata means the refinement of the matter, the refinement, the engagement. That's V'desa Imer, that's Chedesh HaSheni, Chedesh HaZiv, Avodas HaTzadikim. That's the two daragas in Gdula, Gdula Schim Stam Mitzvah, Gdula sees with Bittul, but another, all fine and good. But it's all what? The Metzius remains, but the Metzius is humble. The whole avodah of the Baal Tshuva is a negation of self, a denial of self, a breaking of self, a transcendence of self. That's not Yisarusa de Latata. And that is Mamshech Giloi, which is higher than Ishtal Shalus. So the whole mind is going to explain that the gilui of the avodas tshuva illicit is higher, but it doesn't connect and pervade and become one with the person in the country. He's running away from evil. It's Shchedish Nissen, it's Eskafik, All right? So we're saying all of this with the benefit of having learned the Maamar further. Okay, so let's go to the next question and answer it as well. So his base says as follows, that this medrash, this whole business of Yochel Kameini, no, my kedusha is higher than yours. What's my kedusha? David is tshuva. So this follows after a similar whole model of gedula, based on the pasuk Pashi Skisove before the Teichach Vayisam Rak Lamaila Maila, and your enemy will be cast down. So the medrash says, I might think, how high? As high as me? No. Gedulasi Lamaila B'Gedulasi. So this is the same model. It's the same model. There's two dargis here. It's all talking in avodah of what? Of the tzaddik. Because why? Because gedula is his pashtus. It's chesed. And even if we were to differentiate and say that gedula is higher than chesed, what it means is it's higher than the midah of chesed. But it's his pashtus b'ligvul. His pashtus means manifestation, means oir, means otherness, means the ability to be absorbed in a keli, ziv, ultimately, pnimius, avodas tzadikim. So there's the avodah of gdulaschem stam, and then there's the avodah of gdulasi, which he says later in the Maamar, that's the bittul, that's the anova that the tzaddik brings to avodah, that's the gdulasi. But the point is that the same model, and so therefore, conclusion, as I just said, there are two, that's the conclusion of his base. There are two dargis in avodas tzadikim, whereas kedusha si, that's the avodah of tshuva. Again, what's not so clear is what's kedusha, what's kedusha stam. He said in the previous ois, it's mitzvahs. Sounds like avodas tzadikim. I'm not clear on that. Maamar does not address it specifically. But overall, he makes the point that kedusha, I have to say this, that kedusha is higher than gedula because kedusha means removed. It goes on etzem built in Yizgale, removed fundamentally from manifestation. And that is reached and touched through the avodah of tshuva. So to explain this in further detail, but we're kind of doing it, again, with the benefit of having learned further. So is Gimel, if you follow with me. So he brings the pasuk now. The Rebbe is touching the pasuk. V'yosva anovim b'avaya simcha v'avioni odom b'kadosh yisol yogilu. The Rebbe divides the pasuk into two. The pasuk speaks about the humble ones, simple meaning. The humble ones will increase in God in joy. In other words, their simcha increases in their relationship, in the connection to Hashem. Simple meaning, and the poor of man in the holy of one will rejoice. That's the simple translation. Al Rebbe says that the first half of the pasuk is the what? Is the Indian, is avodas tzadikim. This addition, what adding? Their avodah of anov of bittul is mamshich in shem havaya. They are mamshich higher than ishtalshalos, but it's still not Indian of kedusha. It's not etzem ha'oyer. It's still a level of giluyim, but it's a very lofty level, high of giluyim, and they are mamshich lamata. However, v'yoni odom, the Baal Tshuva who is poor, impoverished of everything, so this avodah of brokenness connects to the level of what? Of Kadosh Yisrael. So divide the pasuk. And as I just said, so Gdulaschem stam is stam avodas tzadikim. Gdulasi, this is v'yosva anovim b'avaya simcha, that's the avodah of Gdulasi. Whereas, again, the avodah of tshuva is altogether higher than the whole gather of Havaya, and even higher than Shem Havaya, which is all shachas to Giluyah. It's pashtas b'ligvul, but still it's oir, it's Giloy, it's ziv, as we'll say later, as opposed to Kadosh Yisrael, the truly removed, fundamental, essential level of alikus, that's connected to dafka through tshuva. So now he began the holding of the pasuk in Shir Hashir Beis Dalet. To understand this, by first prefacing the pasuk, Mitin Ka'achli, who would give, she says to him, Knesset Yisrael, to the Eibush today, you would be to me Ka'achli, Yonik Mishdeyimi, again, who suckles from the breasts of my mother. This equivalent, this brotherhood. What are we asking? Remember, second half of the pasuk says, I will seek you outside, and you will not despise me. We'll soon see how that's explained. So we have two pirushim. First, Rashi and the Medrash. Rashi says, what are we asking? David should be like a brother. So be like Yosef to his brothers. The brothers did him ill, and he only bowed them. They bowed him ill, and he bowed them well, and even consoled them. That's Rashi. Medrash says it's Yosef and Binyamin. Explains that Tzemach Tzedek, why use the model of Yosef and Binyamin? The bigger chiddush is Yosef and the brothers, and that's what we're holding. Having sinned. So that's Tzemach Tzedek answers, what's the mile of Yosef and Binyamin? The mile is that, even though that one is a bigger rebusat, a bigger chiddush, because Yosef did not pain Binyamin like he did his brothers. And why did he do that? Because he should achieve atonement. And later he was goimel toiv, bestowed good. And we're saying we don't want any of that. No. So that's what the Tzemach Tzedek explains. The Medrash, we're asking to be like what? Yosef and Binyamin. But the Rebbe says it's very nice to ask this, Gewaldig Yishrigen, but we are not Binyamin. We are the brothers. So how can we dare we invoke the mile of Yosef Binyamin? So the answer, that's going to be taka. It's taka. We're not denying the fact that we are what? That we are holding in the level of tshuva. We need the end of tshuva, but also we also need and want and achieve, as the Maim explains, avodas tzadikim Binyamin as well. That's the answer to this question. Further question coming up now in the end of Beis Dalet is the stira between the Alter Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek. Again, the same answer will be. What's the stira? The Alter Rebbe says, he divides the pasuk. He says, Mitin Ka'achli, that's tzadikim. I'll find you outside. Who's outside? The Baal Tshuva. He's coming from the outside, and that's where he's finding God in the desert. So that's Baal Tshuva. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe is obviously saying like the Medrash, Yosef and Binyamin, not like Rashi, Yosef and his brothers, where the beginning is also Baal Tshuva. But that Tzemach Tzedek explained the Medrash, Yosef and Binyamin, not Yosef and his brothers, because we want to be cleansed without Yisurim. So it comes out that according to Tzemach Tzedek, the pasuk at the beginning is also talking about Baal Tshuva. And yet the Likutei Torah says it's tzaddikim. Again, the answer to that is it's both. Clear? Guys, I'm rambling here. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Oisei. Now, in Oisei, it was a Meidedike, Oisei, the Avodah here, Oisei, till Oisei is an Ois Vav, especially the end of Ois Vav. In Avodah Satshuva, Meidedike words. Okay, let's begin the journey. So it's a whole beer that comes now, what a chet is. That ultimately the chet is part of the kavanah. Generally, it's because of the tshuva which follows. By Yosef was even more. The so-called sin was a good thing, even as it was happening. Not only for the tshuva that will lead to. The Rebbe says at the end, but pnimis, that's also true of every chet. If somebody hurts somebody else, even though he is punished for his bad choice, the one who inflicted the harm, but for the one who received it, it comes from Hashem and it's all good. But it's not seen at all. In the case of Yosef, the chiddush is that that's all begoli, and that's part of our request. I'm just giving a summary. Our request in the end is that notwithstanding everything that we have done to you, as he says later, the problem with the chet is not so much the sin, but ignoring Hashem's plea, ignoring our own neshama's cry. Don't Don't drag me there. Notwithstanding all of this, we asked the Eibush to deal with us like Yosef and Binyamin, help us to tshuva, and that's not and sustain us and provide us and our children with parnasa, and inspire us to do tshuva, but not through Yisurim, and make us see in the end how the chet is part of the ultimate aliyah. We are complete. We're asking for everything, the minus of everything. That's what comes out in this beard over here. But he explains it first now. Let's go through it step by step. Yeah, you with me? So he says that you do it at the kavanah of selling Yosef to Mitzrayim, but Pnimis HaKavanah wants to elevate the sparks, which he did. He gathered all the silver, and that made the whole golus easier. So Bechitzonius, it was a bad thing that was necessary, but led to golus Mitzrayim. The Pnimis, it itself was part of the kavanah, not a means for an end. Because by being there first, the whole golus was good. There was supposed to be 400 years, it was only 210 years. And moreover, the shibud was only the slavery, the difficult substitute was only the last 86 years. So it comes out selling him was not only contrary to the divine will, on the contrary, this was the kavanah. But what? They didn't know, and therefore it's a chet. And the Rebbe adds that's even true by Pashtus, because by Pashtus it turns at the end that by them selling him, he is a provider for them. But the difference between the Pshat level and the Al-Pichsidis is that the Pshat level, it's bad, but it led to something good. But Al-Pichsidis, being there in Mitzrayim for Yosef itself was a good thing. He was elevating the Tzutz Kedusha, etc., etc. Not just a means for an end. And he explains this is why a very strange thing. Yosef, after initially, stirring into tshuva by separating Shimon and making them bring down Binyamin, the whole story, and then discloses his identity and they're mortified. So he tells them, don't be upset and don't be angry. The Rebbe asks, why is he doing this? It's good for them. Part of tshuva is charata. All sins are part of the hashgacha. But it's all in order to what? For tshuva. So the answer is, again, because you don't see in Adachat Toim, it's not obvious that the chet itself was the kavanah el yoda. It's only later through tshuva. He has to maintain tshuva, therefore, constantly, which is a broken heart. Which is why we do al chet every year for the same chatay on Yom Kippur, at very least for chatas and Egdi Summit, for sins long regretted and no longer transgressed, because the tshuva continues forever. But in this case, which is a message to all of us, b'pnimius, he says enough with the tshuva, because you can see with your own eyes that this was the kavanah ha'elyono. And not only that, he himself harbored no ill against him personally. He became an of the party in Moishe b'choleret Mitzrayim. And then he adds, this is also be'emes true of everything, as I mentioned before, even though the person who inflicted the wrong, his choice was wrong and he's punished for it, has to cleanse and so on. If the one who happened, it's not just a means for an end. That was good. That's a bitter and tikkun for me. So this is not talking about chatoim, it's talking about when someone else hurts me. Someone hurts me, so this is really true of the same thing of Yosef. It's really a good thing for me. But by Yosef, it was Bagola, you could see it. Then he adds in Yosef, let's conclude with this. No, we can go further. And Yosef, what I mentioned before, that everything in Torah is betaktis adiyuk. So the fact that we're asking the Eibush to deal with us like Yosef and the brothers is because he is the perfect model for every sin that a person would do. And a perfect model for our lives, b'chalal, this whole scenario. Why? Because the neshama coming down into the goof is already a golus, like they sold him into golus, and the neshama is an eved in a prison, like the neshama is in the goof nefesh bahamis. But the whole point is to elevate it. So therefore, anytime they were not doing our shlichus, the neshama is suffering for no reason. when we're doing the shlichus, the neshama on the conscience, a big tainug that it's the being mezachach, the guf and the bahamis. And he says two things in that li, which the neshama itself gets. So it's worth all these surim. But if we're not doing the shlichus, and we're not having the personal li, we're not elevating the world, it's all sound for nothing. And not just for us, since the neshama is a chelik alekam mal mamish, it's a tzad for the Eibishter. So what them selling him into golus is the whole matzav of every chetu. And he adds in brackets, not just has to be a chet, it's just not doing the shlichus, is the matzav of Yosef. And a further point that I mentioned before, that he says here, this very hard-hitting point, before the end of Zion, another nakuda here is that the Shvatim said to Yosef, we're guilty that we did not listen to you when you pleaded to us and we didn't listen. The Rabbi says that this, they didn't rachmanas on him, this is a greater guilt than the sale itself. Likewise in the Nimshal, that the Neshama and the Shechina is pleading to Ayid, take me out of Golos, don't drag me here, and he doesn't listen. So this in a way is worse than the actual improper conduct. So now we'll conclude this Chazorah here that we're asking, like the Medrash says, and then in the end we'll say it's both Medrash and Rashi. That be like a brother to us, like Yosef to the brothers. There's many things we're asking the Eibishter. Number one, provide all our needs like Yosef did. Understand, friends? The Maimer, it's the brachas v'amshachas. Meita v'orah should be good for you. Panasa gashmi barchova. So we're saying to the Eibishter, even though we sinned, you give us kol tuv. And like Yosef had bore no grudge, bear no grudge. Not only did he behave to them in a way of chesed, he bore no grudge. On the contrary, helped him to achieve atonement. Except we're asking, help us, but not through Yisurim. The Tzemach Tzedek says the Eibishter Kol Yochel and can forgive us and clean us even without Yisurim. That's the Avodah of Tshuva. The Medrash says that they asked Chochma and Torah, Shalom Chochma. Chochma said, die. Torah said, bring a chet, bring a korban. And the Eibishter said, do Tshuva. So you can Tshuva without any of this. Higher than Ishtalshus can be without Yisurim, even without a korban. Moreover, Yosef helped him do tshuva. We're asking the Eibush to inspire us to do tshuva. And again, not through Yisurim. Like Yosef comforted them and showed them the kavanah pnimius. It was all for good. Not enough hipach harotzen. It was the rotzen. And through this, they made the whole easier, the whole golus and the whole avodah of Yidden and elevated the sparks. So too we ask of the Eibush that only you should forgive us, but moreover, they should show us in Megala the Pnimius HaKavona of the Ma'il of Tshuva, that this turns the Chatoim themselves into Zochias, which means a higher connection than through Stam mitzvahs. And in the Odyssey, you remember, the Rebbe labors and proves at the end that you don't need Tshuva Me'ava Rabbah, even though he says so in Tanya. But it doesn't need Ava Rabbah. Because in Tanya he says, first of all, why does the chet become a schus? Because through the chet he had come to this Ava Rabbah. That's from every tshuva, even if there's no Ava Rabbah. The sin that brought him to tshuva, and he's hiding the tzaddik. The Rambam says clearly that the Tzabal Tshuva is hiding the tzaddik, and he doesn't give conditions that it has to be dafke tshuva mi'ava. Every Bal Tshuva. Then he adds to the order at the bottom. In fact, Bal Tshuva is even greater than the tzaddik. That Bal Tshuva struggles because he's struggling, and that's every Bal Tshuva. On the contrary, tshuva mi'ava is no struggle. You love this. So he's championing the mile of the tshuva, which is the lower tshuva, not the tshuva mi'ava. So B'chlolus, the union of therefore he concludes in the order at 55 that transforming Zdonis to Zochis is in every tshuva. Only one problem he brings in the bottom, the two stars, that the Gemara says outright, it's dafka tshuva me'ava, and tshuva me'yira will not do it. So he answers, yeah, that's the doichik we can say that what does tshuva me'yira mean? The lowest level of tshuva is doing tshuva because he's afraid of being punished. So there, he's not breaking himself. On the contrary, he wants to avoid being hurt. And he says, Adayin tzarich, which means kind of leaving the door open, I think, that even this level of tshuva we can also include in his ha'tchk. Adayin tzarich. Let's learn it that way. That the Rebbe is not going to dismiss even that level. Even a selfish tshuva. I don't want to burn in Gehenna. I want to have Gan Eden. Even that has the mile of his ha'tchk. Okay, we'll continue and conclude the Chazorah to Mahalim by Eis Ches already. We'll conclude tomorrow and start the next Maamar.